Hello, and welcome again to Lore of the Cards, the series that reveals the lore hidden inside your Hearthstone deck. Today, we are continuing with our Naxxramas mini-series, finding out about the enemies you'll be facing in the new Hearthstone adventure. We've covered the Arachnid Quarter, the Plague Quarter, and now we'll find out more about the Brutish Military Quarter. If you want to find more on all the quarters now, there's a nice little summary article on the official Blizzard site, which I've linked in the description below. I'll be looking to go into a little more depth. Some of the most powerful generals and soldiers in the Lich King's army are known as Death Knights, and the military quarter in Naxxramas is dedicated to training these unholy warriors. Few are more formidable than Instructor Resuvius. There have been two types of Death Knight over the course of Warcraft's history. The first Death Knights were implemented by the Orcish Horde during the Second War, and the second Death Knights were soldiers of the Lich King in the event known as the Third War. The Death Knights in the service of the Horde were created by Gul'dan in order to appease the wrath of the new war chief Orgrim Doomhammer. Doomhammer discovered that Gul'dan had sold out the Horde in order to further his own power. Gul'dan is the reason that most orcs have green skin. When Gul'dan was unable to prevent Doomhammer from doing anything, the orc, who valued honour above all else, went on a rampage. He defeated the previous warchief Blackhand in a duel, usurping his position, and murdered the Shadow Council. The warlocks of the Shadow Council were the true rulers of the Horde, manipulating actions from behind the scenes and using Blackhand as an inspirational figurehead. After the council had been destroyed, Doomhammer came for their leader, Gul'dan. The greatest of all orc warlocks fell to his knees and begged for his life. Despite knowing that he would likely come to regret the decision, Doomhammer let Gul'dan live. In return, Gul'dan helped Doomhammer quash any of those still loyal to the defeated warchief Blackhand, and gifted the new warchief with Death Knights. The Death Knights were created from the corpses of Stormwind Knights, the human kingdom that the orcs defeated in the First War. Gul'dan placed the souls of the slain Shadow Council members into these corpses. Reanimated, the Death Knights were very much the antithesis of what they were in life. No longer hand-to-hand fighters, they were powerful necromancers, raising skeletons from the corpses of their adversaries to fight for the Horde, and casting powerful magics that rent flesh and stone alike. Instructor Resuvius is one of the second types of Death Knight in the service of the Undead Scourge, ruled over by the immensely powerful Lich King. This breed of Death Knight was very different from Gul'dan's variety, their bodies stronger in death than they were in life. As well as being empowered with superhuman strength, the Death Knights wielded magical rune blades, spread disease over the battlefield, and blasted their opponents with ice magic. These fiends were created in two ways. They could give their souls over to the Lich King, whether that be wittingly or unwittingly. Baron Riven, who we cover later, is a good example of a human that gave themselves over to the Lich King, sacrificing his free will but gaining great strength. Arthas, the first of all Death Knights, unwittingly gave his soul to the king, claiming Frostmourne in a desperate bid to save his people. The sword consumed Arthas' soul, which delivered him to the Lich King's service. This variety of Death Knight are not actually undead. Other Death Knights are raised from the corpses of powerful individuals in life, made stronger in death. This variety would usually be created from the corpses of paladins, but there is no strict rules, as those that cannot become paladins can become Death Knights, orcs, trolls, and goblins, for example. Sir Zelich, again covered later, is a good example of this Death Knight type. It is never stated as to how Resuvius became a Death Knight, but he is clearly one of the most powerful, as Kor'Thazz has entrusted him to train the Death Knights of Naxxramas. Resuvius instructs his students in the art of battle, focusing on their form and how to wield their rune blades with deadly accuracy. Vesuvius's battle technique is so refined that unless his opponent is directly trained by him, he is able to defeat his adversary with a single blow. While none of Vesuvius's pupils have surpassed their master, they at least fare better than this. During the Naxxramas raid in World of Warcraft, players would need to mind control Vesuvius's pupils to even stand a chance of defeating the Death Knight, as standard tanks would drop down dead after only a few blows. Vesuvius's pupils still retained their training when mind controlled, so could survive more of the Death Knight's relentless attacks. Even if you didn't have a priest in the party, Vesuvius's trainees could be controlled using mind control orbs at the side of the sparring arena. Bit of a mistake when Kor'Thazz designed Naxxramas, methinks. This mind control mechanic will be seen when taking him on, and Vesuvius's unrelenting nature is adequately represented by his hero power. With the help of his mind-controlled students, players were able to defeat Vesuvius. However, he would later be found during the Siege of New Avalon, like Noth, who we covered in the last episode. New Avalon was a city controlled by the Scarlet Crusade, a rather extreme group that looked to purge the world of all undead. Again, Vesuvius would train new Death Knights, teaching them the basics of runeblades and testing their battle skills by getting his new pupils to slaughter those he deemed unworthy in one-on-one combat. Gothic the Harvester is a colleague of Vesuvius's, also helping to train Death Knights in the military quarter. Gothic himself is a master of necromancy and conjuration, and teaches the Death Knights a very different skill to Vesuvius. As the Lich King's grand necromancer, Gothic instructs even the weakest Death Knights in the art of raising the dead to do their bidding. Gothic himself is able to summon legions of ghouls and tormented souls to fight for him at a moment's notice. During his encounter in World of Warcraft, Gothic would do just that, summoning a host of spectres to attack the raid. The room is split into two halves. On one side, Death Knights rush to protect the Harvester. Upon their death, Gothic is able to manipulate their souls to fight for him once again, on the other side of his chamber. This is represented in Hearthstone with Gothic's boss-specific cards. All Death Knights that are brought into play by Gothic, when killed, form again as a spectre on his opponent's side of the board. These spectres do not attack Gothic, but continue to do damage to his adversary. His hero power allows him to swarm his opponent. Gothic can also be found in the Siege of New Avalon. He is seeking souls to feed his power and help the Lich King break the siege. He does this by giving a trainee Death Knight a portable container that holds the plague of undeath. He sends the trainee into the Scarlet Crusade's mining operation, where the Death Knight uses the plague to turn miners into ghouls. The Scarlet Crusade's mining operations disturbed, the trainee returns with the ghouls, which Gothic hurls into a pit and wrenches out the souls still trapped within the undead husks. Fed on souls, Gothic continues to raise many of the dead Scarlet Crusade soldiers to siege New Avalon. Baron Riven shall be your final opponent of the military quarter, leader of Kor'Thazz's royal guard, the Four Horsemen. Riven was not always the leader of the Horsemen. That title used to be held by Alexandrus Mograine. Mograine used to be a great paladin, and was the first to wield the sword known as the Ashbringer. Named this since it reduced many of the undead to ash. The entirety of Mograine's story could fill another episode, so I'll skim over it for now. With Ashbringer in hand, Mograine led the human resistance against the Scourge, destroying many undead. However, the seeds of corruption had been sown within his order, and Mograine was sent into a trap. He was attacked by hordes of undead. With the Ashbringer in hand, Mograine defeated all of them. However, Alexandrus was stabbed in the back with the Ashbringer by his son Renault, who had been deceived into thinking his father did not care for him. Renault was unable to retrieve his father's sword, as murdering him had caused the once holy Ashbringer to become corrupted. Kor'Thazz was able to make use of this mighty weapon though, raising Mograine as a Death Knight to wield the sword once again. Distraught to hear about his father's fate, Alexandros' other son, Darian, led a small party into the halls of Naxxramas to save his father's soul. At the end of their adventure, the party battled the 4 horsemen. They were victorious, but suffered many casualties, and Darian's journey to redeem his father's soul did not end there. Riven, before pledging himself to the Lich King, was a wealthy landowner in the city of Stratholme. A friend of Kor'Thazz, Riven was quick to help his friend establish the Cult of the Damned, which was responsible for spreading the plague of undeath through the kingdom of Lordaeron. In a fit of rage, Prince Arthas, not yet controlled by the Lich King, purged the city of Stratholme, killing every man, woman and child as it had been affected by the plague of undeath. He did this to try and prevent the spread of the plague. This action lost Arthas many allies, including Uther and Jaina, and delivered him further into the hands of the Lich King. Riven later returned to Stratholme after the culling to coordinate the Lich King's armies in the Plague Lands. Riven was also present during the siege on New Avalon, inspiring Death Knights to go directly into the heart of the city and kill members of the Scarlet Crusade. With Mograine missing, Kor'Thazz called upon his old friend to lead the 4 horsemen. The other 3 horsemen may not have as much lore significance, but their powers are still great. Thane Kor'Thazz used to be a dwarven paladin of the Silver Hand. It is suspected that Kor'Thazz became a Death Knight after the Order's leader, Uther the Lightbringer, fell in battle. The Thane now wields the powers of fire, making him very individual as a Death Knight, as they will tend to use frost and shadow magics. In the fight against Darian's party, Kor'Thazz was a strong opponent, being the last to fall in battle. Lady Blaumeux did not fare so well in the fight against Darian's party, instantly dying to a throwing axe to the head. Despite an unimpressive show in this fight, the lady is a master of shadow magics. During the encounter in WoW, she fires shadow bolts at the raid and summons voids upon the floor to damage those that dare attack her. Presumed a paladin in life, Lady Blaumeux now wields polar opposite powers. She also wrote This Is My Runeblade, a book introducing Death Knights to their powerful weaponry. Finally, we come to Sir Zelich, who I find the most intriguing. Zelich's faith in the Holy Light was so strong that he is still able to wield it in death. Zelich is also one of the few undead in the Lich King's army that still retains his humanity and morals, though Kor'Thazz's control sees he does not have dominance over his actions. When fighting, Zelich will often plead with his opponents to run while they still can, fully aware that not many who face the Horsemen live to tell the tale. This is again a testament to Zelich's strong willpower and faith. In the fight against Darian's group, Zelich was the only other Death Knight other than Alexandros to score a kill on the depleted party, begging forgiveness as he did. Before dying to Zelich's blow, Brannigan Thundermaw was able to knock him out. After the battle was over, Zelich regained consciousness and mourned his wretched existence. "When will this be over? When will I be released? How many more must I kill?" Sadly, in Hearthstone, the Horsemen do not retain their very individual characteristics and seem to only act as barriers to the player so they can't kill Riven. I'm hoping there will be some spell cards to represent the Horsemen's personalities. There you have it. We only have one more quarter to go before finding out about the big bad himself, Kor'Thazz. If you have enjoyed this episode and want to help out the channel, please like, subscribe and share this video around. Next time we'll be focusing on the Construct Quarter and the twisted creations found within. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.